So now we have finished two presentations about sexuality. Then let's move on to marriage formation by Professor Nguyen Minh from Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences. Then Professor Minh, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Professor Emiko Ochai. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank you very much, organizer, to have me here as a presenter to talk something about one volume I was editor. That is for marriage formation. So as introduced briefly by Professor Emiko Ochai, in this volume, I will talk about like some chapter from different country, talk about like some different aspect related to like marriage formation. So as you can see that in the world, including in Asia, there are dramatic changes in marriage formation. For example, like decreasing trend in marriage rate and increasing as marriage and cohabitation rate and individual freedom in the selection of a mate. Please move to the next. Yeah, okay. And there are some different way of explanation. For example, like the factor can explain for the change of marriage pattern. We can see like for the availability, the feasibility, and the desirability of marriage, as suggested by Dixon sociological framework, or the role of some modernization factor not related to industrialization and urbanization process. And also from cultural approach, we also can see the role of traditional custom and norm and religion and the effect of state policy, etc. However, the direction, next please, direction of each marriage aspect may differ from one culture to the next. And the important factor shaping marriage pattern also vary depending on the society under study. So it is very important to clarify in each particular context what factor have a strong effect on marriage pattern. So in this volume, we present a chapter written by the author in the period in 1999 to 2009 that refer to the various aspects of marriage formation. As I would like to emphasize that is I focus only one aspect of marriage, that pattern, that is marriage formation. So here we can see like the various aspects of marriage formation in each country and illustrate the richness of type of marriage and impact factor. And in my presentation, I will emphasize the main point, main important idea from each chapter about the marriage formation. And very luckily that some author of the volume also present here in this session. For example, like Professor Patricia Broy. And you can see that like the number of chapter, 8 chapter, is quite long compared to the rather broad range of topic. Also compared to the number of countries in the region. So here we can select only some paper reflect different dimensions and complement each other on marriage issue. Next, please. The first chapter by Chai Posista, Thailand, from Thailand, mentioned about the change of marriage pattern in Thailand in 3 particular aspects, that is a later marriage, decreasing prevalence of marriage, and the change of traditional form of marriage, especially immerse slowly a kind of cohabitation. And this chapter also show the role of some factor of modernization theory. For example, like the role of the urban area of like a modern occupation and for young people. For example, like a higher meritorious age in city, and those whose occupation require them to achieve certain level of knowledge and skill merit later than self-employed person, and higher rate of cohabitation among young urban people. Next, please. The chapter 2 by Yamada Masahiro so very interesting phenomenon in Japan, and also we can refer to other countries too. That is the increasing number of unmarried people cohabiting with their parents in Japan, that he can call like a parasite syndrome. And the two main arguments to explain for this new phenomenon, that is due to the decreasing number of marriage and difficult for parasite syndrome to get married, because they are very satisfied with their life before getting married. The next, please. The chapter 3 by Nguyen focus on the first marriage in the Red River Delta, that is in the north of Vietnam, during the 5 decades up to 1995 for both sexes, female and male. And that is interesting in this study. That is show the new explanation for change in the marriage age. That is in addition to very important role of education, urbanization, and occupation outside agriculture. That is a crucial significance, the role of wartime and national policy, because these factor that was not so much in other study. And from the analysis, the author also expected that as marriage in the Red River Delta will continue to increase, but at a slower rate compared to earlier decade. And chapter 4, and next please, by Ravinder Kaur, she examined the social outcome of the strong son preference characteristic of Indian patrilineal kinship system. And for example, in rural area, 1 in 5 men will be unable to marry in accordance with the customary norms of the region and their respective community. For example, for men from poorer family, for lower but older men, and for men seeking to make secondary marriage. And this chapter provided an excellent and succinct account of variety of material transactions typically associated with marriage arrangement in India. Next, please. Lê Bạch Dương and his colleague in chapter 5 emphasize the role of poverty and gender imbalance in marriage formation in terms of transnational marriage. And they examine the wider social meanings of the sharp and unprecedented increase of Vietnamese women migrating to marry men from Taiwan and South Korea since the late 1990s. And they place commercially arranged transnational marriage in the social field formed by interaction between household, market, and state. In chapter 6 by Su An Quy, identify the most important mate selection preferences in China during the last half of the 20th century. And it is found out that even though Chinese people still value the stability and longevity of marriage, more attention to socio-economic and practical conditions starting in the late 1980s, and young people and higher education pay more attention to their potential mate economic and social status. And the more the living environment modernized, the more attention is given to romantic love. Next, please. In chapter 7 by Zhu Guoxiu, also focus on China marriage pattern. And this chapter analyzed the changing practice of marriage payment since 1940 in a town in China. And it is a review that escalating payments mean a rise in both individualism and consensuality. And as a kind of traditional cultural and social recourse, marriage payments tend to be utilized to pursue the equilibrium of power in opponent relationship by the bride's family. Next, please. The last chapter in my volume, that is chapter 8 by Patricia Ubroy, who just gave presentation few minutes ago. In this chapter, Patricia recognized a global phenomenon, that of bridal magazine in an Indian context. And following the magazine Bride and Home, this chapter identifies 3 areas of reader anxiety and concern, which the magazine clearly failed to satisfy. That is how to deal with in-laws, especially in the context of virulent marriage, and the initiation of consequent sexuality, given the cultural premium on virginity, and the politics of gift giving in its overlap with the dowry system. So a chapter in this volume shows a colorful picture of the diversity and changes of marriage pattern in Asia within the overarching context of globalization today. And this also illustrates the explanation of different theory of marriage pattern. And this chapter suggested further issues such as the role of migration, communication, or the interwined impact of government policy and modernization factor discussed earlier. And this issue, even though was a study in some other study, but given the frame of the book, we could not bring this into the book. So that is we can discuss later, and I hope you can find out more about this finding by reading directly to the chapter. And some author who joined this session today also can give some idea or explanation about the chapter. Okay, so that is very brief my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.